Hey, Composing Gloves here, and today I want to talk to you about a truly funky riser. At least I think it's truly funky. Results may vary, opinions may vary. Let me play it for you. It's this thing right here. I'm going to play just a little bit before, maybe like a little loop so you can hear the drums, get a vibe, and then hear how it transitions into the drop. This is again in work, hasn't been mixed. It's just in the creative stage. Here you go. So there you go. That's what's going on. Drop still under construction. That flute was a little loud. But you get the idea. We have this thing. It's like sort of not really a thing. If you're listening to it over your phone, it's definitely not a thing over here. Like you can't even hear it because it's pretty low. And then you hear things begin to rise and get like it becomes more of the bass it's going to be. This actually is going to be the bass. It's the main bass throughout the drop. And we get to this spot, which I think is just so cool. It's super duper funky. So let's talk about how this thing works. What are the components? We could talk a little bit about the sound design. It is instrumental to the way this works. If I guess that could be considered a pun. So the thing that makes this thing funky is the rhythm. That's just the way it is. That's how it works. It's how funk works. So what I have here is I have these repeating. Now these are 16th notes, but I have my swing on about like, what is that? A little under halfway. I think it sounds cool. I've gotten like crap from other people who are like, oh, it's too much swing or too little swing or la la la. I think this is a good amount of swing, okay? And what we have here is instead of it playing 1E into 2E into 3E, it pushes the beats over. So it goes do, so that you can have those rhythms without having to write out all these crazy, like slightly off notes. And so that's what's going on here. So I took advantage of it and sort of wrote a line, and I just took it and I put down a bunch of C's, just like a whole bunch of C's. And it sounded like this. Let me play just the part. And so now there's sound design going on. We'll talk about that, but the writing is the more important part here. And so it's going, and then I thought, man, okay, I got this cool beat. I need to start, having things jump out and pop out at people. And in funk, things have to be somewhat unexpected, but they have to follow the rules. You know what I'm saying? Like they have this clear boom, da, boom, boom, da, but then they have all this stuff in the middle. It's like boom, boom, all these things in the middle that follow this larger structure, and that's what makes it so cool. I mean, I really like listening to this kind of music because it's so unexpected, but it's very predictable. It's like this really confusing sort of thing. So I said, oh, I'll take this one note up. And then we'll go over here. Now, this is the second half. In the first half, this is what the first half's doing. So right here, what's the idea? What are you going for harmonically? Because you can hear my rhythm sort of doing its thing. It's doing no, and I'm just following the rhythm. Like, yeah, it sounds cool. So there's a couple of tricks I employ here. So the first is I'm elucidating to a key. So there is, we're moving in C, 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 and I'm like, oh, here's some notes around the key that I'm using. And so it's like do, 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 do. And so it's like, oh, okay. So this is these are the chords he's kind of working with. You can hear it. And we get going, and then I pull a fast one here. I go to a C. I'm elucidating to I'm not even sure if that's right. I'm alluding to a C minor chord, and I put in shorter notes. So now you're like, whoa, that was different. That was different. Like it goes off in your head. And the sound has the ability to cut off really short. So all the little crispness between the notes is really like clearly before your ears. So I'm like, okay, and then I start adding in some variation, and this is part of just what is this, 4 bars? A 4-bar loop. So we're going in, I'm like, hey, here's a transition, do. So it's a little crazier, and you expect it to go back to what it was. And so why it's doing that, I think it'd be helpful to have the modulation audible while this is going on. So while this is going on, We can hear it. I do the same thing again. You see it's the same part. I thought it was creative enough to warrant a second listen because now you're a little more aware, but the sounds are changing. I didn't want to overwhelm you with too much craziness. I have these trumpets that have come in and they're getting more aggressive. I have the sound changing. Several effects are turning on. So I was like, I'll leave it like it is. It's pretty darn compelling. And so it's going and you have this driving rhythm and it's getting wilder. And then at the end, I'm like, I've just got to lose my mind here. So what I did was I rewrote what was going on there. This is completely different now. And I really just made it like short and long, really emphasizing the beats that I thought like were really cool to hear. And so this is what I came up with. And so see, I just think it's like do 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 do. So now with this sort of a song, I cannot experiment my way into an idea. I just can't. But in this genre, I can generally think of something pretty cool and then I can go at it and see how close I can get to it. So on this one, I was like, when I'm making this sort of music, I don't record myself making it because I'm like pretending to play the drums, all the other things, whatever it takes to get in the mindset to make the thing. And so this thing, I was sitting there going do 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 do, and so that was slightly different than what I have here. But you see, it came across and translated pretty well. And if you ever see me try to sing drops, it's pretty funny. So they're just things you cannot sing. So yeah. Now the short notes here add the spike to the sound, and then the long notes. And you notice this one looks slightly shorter than this note. I don't know. We're getting sort of judgmenty. Let's just listen. And the notes I choose to elongate will determine the rhythm. So you could sit here and experiment with various rhythms, but I keep all the things pretty much on the same beat. So now I've taken something that you've grown familiar with and you've grown really familiar with the rhythm, and then I just completely throw all expectations out the window. So let's go ahead and talk about the sound design. Let's first look at it on a general level. So first, I have like my cool sound that I've written out, right? And I decided to use FM synthesis for this. And I've come back and tweaked this sound so much. It's a pretty complicated sound now. It's the main sound in my drop actually. So if I were to just play just a piece of the drop, all the bass stuff. So you see, it's playing a role. There's sort of this intricate call and response thing going on. It's the drops in this sort of a thing are something else. So what's going on here though is I'm introducing you to the sound. At the beginning, it doesn't sound anything like that sound. So you see it builds up. So you can hear like the modulation playing its role. And you can see I took my time and gave little moments in the music. I give these little spikes of like, here's what the sound is. Boom, 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 boom. And it adds this extra funk level to it. And so like here, that happens. By this point, the sound's crazy enough that I'm like, okay, I'm going to back this off. And then I get to here. Now, what is this modulation X thing controlling? Well, I'm using FM synthesis. And it is basically, I have a operator 1. And it is going out. It's going through a filter, which I move around at my discretion. And I have two operators. Operator 3 is modulating operator 2. Operator 2 is a low tone. It's at 0.5. If you really want to get an idea of what's going on here, if you go watch my series on Learn FM Synthesis, I have a serial relationship between 2, 3, and 1. And 3 is modulating 2, which is modulating 1, and the effect is heard only on 1. And I have the modulation X knob controlling operator 2's volume, and that affects how operator 1 takes in 2 and 3. So that's all I'm really going to say. Honestly, you saw a lot of the settings. The general idea is this is a sharp wave, this is not. And this wave has a secondary effect on this wave. This is the wave that determines the grit in this wave. And so that's I'm just going to say that much. If you're like looking for the download or whatever, this is a track I'm working on pretty heavily. I'm probably not going to upload the FLP. So yeah, sorry about that. but you can mess and get similar results moving around this. Now I do have the unison on because I wanted some stereo width, so this opens it up to the sides. So that's what's going on there. But if we listen to just what's coming out of Citrus without the effects, it would sound like this. So you see, that's just a sine wave. And listen to as the modulation comes up. This is what you'll be getting out of Citrus just by itself as a patch. So you see, it's like, what the heck kind of effects do you have on? Like, that's the next question, right? So I have on, the first order of business is a parametric EQ2. Some of the low end's gone. This was largely an experiment, and I just left it in the chain. So this is at the beginning, not really that important. Stereo shaper. Stereo shaper, it causes it to go as wide as it does. May change this in the mix, may not. Largely making room for other things while I was working. So nothing too crazy there. So with those effects on, we get this. And you see all these things are like turning on and off. But you see nothing that crazy. This is the first sort of big one. So if you're not familiar with Native Instruments Driver, check it out. I haven't got any videos on it currently. I'll probably do some. This thing is monstrous. It sounds super good. And so basically, I just messed with the resonance, frequency, distortion, and color knobs. The biggest knobs on this thing. And you just find a sweet combo. Sometimes this can be a bad idea, but I found something that sounds pretty cool, and it allowed me to get some additional grit that I really wanted. So that's like, this is a very nice thing to have on plug. And so let me play for you the before so you can hear it. So here's after. So you see, that's pretty nice. And I also went back and tweaked the FM at this point to get what I wanted. And then I messed with the reverb, decided it was a bad idea. And you see there's a Maximus turning on and off. And this is some preset. I don't even remember which preset, but it's a preset. I just went through and found one that I thought sounded cool. And then I turn it on as time goes on. So it's responsible for a lot of the drive that you're hearing. So this, in combination with Maximus, which is just on some preset, allows me to get that sound. Whereas before these two, it was like, whoa, that's with it. But as soon as I add on the Maximus. And so at this point, I was like, this is cool, but it's still a little bright. So I brought in a chorus, and you can see the chorus is on slightly. And this chorus is just, I don't know. Let me just show you the effect it has. It's a little more obvious up here. And let me take it off. So you can hear it adds, like, it just smooths things very subtly. And I messed with the effects. Largely, you're going to be messing with depth and delay and speed. These ones. Oh, and this one actually has a cutoff frequency, which allows me to only chorus part of the signal, which allows it to be pretty subtle. So I needed this because it was just really, it just made it fit. It got the tone that I wanted. So chorus, I mean, I guess it's a pretty typical processing move, but for me, I was like, oh wow, I got some interesting things I didn't necessarily expect from the chorus. And then finally, I have a delay on down here, but you notice the delay is off at this point. And so what's going on with the delay is it's the Isotope dynamic delay. I got it when it was free, but now it's like 30 or 40 bucks or something. It's always on. They always have some sort of a sale, so just like watch out for those. They're a cool company. They give out stuff for free all the time. And I messed with this time knob here. So, and I believe a couple other settings, can't remember which ones, that they say to my, there we go, mix level and delay time. That's what I'm messing with. And so I use that here to get a fundamentally different tone during my drop. So if you listen to my synth line here, as soon as this turns on, so that sound right there, that is pretty clearly a comb filter, which comes from the fact that I'm using such a short delay time. If I turn this off, it doesn't, it's like, ooh, it's not that great. So when I turn it on, that's what I got. It sounds actually different at this point. I'm not going to save what I just touched, so, but it sounded different before. Maybe it was the same and I just like, I don't know, never listened to isolation like that before. So this is also it gives it the ability to sort of fade back during parts, but come out. It has grit, it's forward, but it also is laid back, giving room to other things. I don't know. It's this sort of weird relationship. I messed with a lot of small settings to get it where I wanted it. And now I think I have a pretty funky riser along with a pretty funky bass line. It melds over. It's one sound. It's pretty cool. So yeah, there you go. That's it in action. If you have any questions about this, let me know. Subscribe, support me on Patreon, and have a blessed day.